Imagine if every cell in your body turned into a phone. Now, each phone has a charging port, and your oxygen is the charger that plugs in to charge it. But if you're poisoned with cyanide, it would be like someone jamming sticky gum into the charging port. Even though power is ready to flow, the charger can't connect, and the phone can't charge. Now, imagine if every cell in your body turned into a phone. Now, each He shot the arrow through the slits on the castle wall. You see, from the outside, these slits, known as loopholes, looked like thin cracks. But on the inside, they opened wide, allowing the shooter to aim in different directions. And the design let him cover a wide area, while still being almost impossible to hit from the outside. Now, centuries later, that same word for these slits was reused, and loophole came to mean a narrow way to slip through rules. He shot the arrow through the slits on the castle wall. You see, from the outside, same word he shot. If you paint a live turtle shell, the chemicals will soak through the hard surface and into its bloodstream, since the shell is actually a part of its body. And this can poison the turtle, eventually killing it. But even if it survives, the paint blocks sunlight from being absorbed through the shell, making the turtle weak. Now, some people use shrink wrap stickers instead of paint, but this holds the shell tightly together, meaning it can't grow normally. Instead, new cells will form at the edge of the shell, and as it grows, the covered parts stay in place, and the shell around it becomes seriously deformed, which is why you should just never decorate your turtle. If you paint a live edge of She opened the door and found a single packet of honey mustard, along with a food delivery receipt. But there was no actual food. She was confused and checked her doorbell camera and saw only the sauce packet being delivered. It turns out she was actually just sleepwalking the night before and paid a whopping $8 for the lonely packet. She did post the footage of the delivery to TikTok and got millions of views. She opened the door. They posted a picture of the master key to promote the new luggage locks. Now, these locks were designed to let one key open all of them, so TSA agents could check suitcases without any damage. But a group of hackers scanned these pictures, and they 3D printed an exact replica of the key, which they put online for anyone to download, showing how unsafe they were. But the TSA ignored this, and these locks are still used today, which means your luggage is never really secure. They posted a picture of the master key, which they put online for anyone to They posted a She was buying her usual lottery ticket when someone rudely bumped into her. Now, this caused her to hit the wrong button, and she accidentally bought a $30 ticket instead. But the stranger didn't even apologize. Frustrated, she walked back to her car and scratched the ticket. And when the numbers were revealed, she realized she had just won $10 million, all because someone shoved her at the perfect moment. She was buying her usual walked back to her car and scratched the ticket. She was buying her usual lottery ticket when someone rudely bumped. When the axe hits the wood, a powerful magnet is detached from inside the head. This releases a rubber band, which shoots a pin into a shotgun shell. When it hits the primer, the shell explodes, and the force of the blast shoots out special holes in the axe's blade. A powerful magnet is detached from the When the axe hits the wood, the shell explodes. She was buying her usual lottery ticket. When the axe She was buying her usual lottery when a bulldog When the axe hits the wood, a powerful magnet is shell explodes, and the force of the blast shoots out special holes in the axe's blade, right into the wood. This causes the log to split easily, sending the pieces flying in all directions. When the axe hits the wood, a powerful magnet is detached from inside the head. This releases a rubber easily, sending the piece. When a bulldog breathes, its squashed snout and closed nostrils block the air from flowing properly. But hundreds of years ago, they had longer snouts, smoother faces. When a bulldog breathes, its squashed snout and closed nostrils block the air from flowing properly. But hundreds of years ago, they had longer snouts, smoother faces, and straighter legs. Over the years, close relatives were bred together to exaggerate their features. And now their big jaws cause crowded teeth and infected gums. Their skin folds get constant infections, and their snouts cause serious breathing problems. And since they've been bred to have large heads, giving birth to the puppies is almost impossible. And if the ketchup bottle is farting, close the lid and grab it. Then swing it in a circle. The ketchup inside will want to stay still, but as you swing it, the bottle and ketchup move in different directions. Now, if you just shake the bottle, it moves up and down, so some of the force would actually push the ketchup away from the cap. But when you swing it, the force pushes the ketchup away from the center of the swing, meaning it all collects in the cap. If the ketchup bottle is farting, close the lid and the dead man's hand would hold a candle, and when it was taken into a house, legend says everyone who saw it would be paralyzed, allowing the thieves to take whatever they wanted. You see, the hand was cut from a hanged man, and their fat was scooped from their body to form a candle.
Is it true that most guys finish?
The pilot would climb into the torpedo, squeezing behind the 3,000-pound warhead, and it was launched from the submarine toward an enemy ship. The pilot would extend a viewing tube above the water to plan a path to the target. Then they'd steer it underwater using hand controls. When he hit, the warhead would explode, instantly killing the pilot. But because they were hard to control, most of these torpedoes actually missed. And it was designed as a one-way trip, meaning there was no escape plan. Instead of just waiting to run out of air, the pilots would just detonate the warhead. The pilot would climb and detonate the warhead. If a hummingbird grew as big as a jet, each flap of its wings would send gusts of wind tearing through the streets like a hurricane. But it would need to drain more than 2 billion flowers daily just to keep its wings flapping. That's over 40,000 gallons of nectar every single day. But at that size, its heart would tear itself apart trying to pump blood through the entire body. And even if it survived, the heat from its massive wing muscles would build so fast, it would cook the bird from the inside out. If a hummingbird grew as big as a jet, each flap of its wings would send gusts of
Want to create your own character?
How many AC units would it take to cool the entire state of Texas? Well, Texas covers over 250,000 square miles. During the summer, temperatures often climb over 100 degrees. To drop it by just 10 degrees, you would need over 10 AC units blasting all at once. That's 27 times the number of units currently in the US. They would suck up 36 terawatts of power, more than the entire planet can produce. And that amount of energy use would create ozone and pump greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, meaning rather than cooling Texas, you would actually be overheating the entire planet. How many AC units They poured liquid nitrogen into a swimming pool, hoping to create fog for their party, but something went wrong. You see, liquid nitrogen boils at a super low temperature, and when small amounts are put into water, it becomes a long-lasting white mist. but the host used 4 buckets, which turned into a heavy blanket of gas that covered the pool, replacing all of the air and choking the guests as they collapsed in the water. 8 people were hospitalized, while 1 was even left in a coma, and the hosts were never charged for a crime. They poured liquid nitrogen
Hi there!
After you insert it, the rollers grab the penny and pull it into a tiny gap. One roller is flat and helps pull it forward, and the other has the design carved into its surface. As they clamp down, the pressure is so strong that it squeezes the penny, and this crushes the metal, forcing the disc to stretch into a long, thin oval. As the carved parts of the roller presses in, it raises letters and lines. They threw him in a freezing outdoor cell in a high-security prison, and his hands and feet locked inside special shackles that took hours to unlock. You see, he had escaped twice before, and the guards were determined it wouldn't happen again. But when they weren't watching, he spat his miso soup onto the cuffs and the food slot. Over time, the salt corroded the metal, and during a blackout, he twisted them open. Next, he dislocated both shoulders and slipped out through the weakened food slot, before vanishing into the snow. They threw him in a freezing outdoor cell both prison, and his hands and feet were locked inside.
Walmart's fashion.
He shoved a blunt needle between his eyes. He pulled the pin, assuring the it was totally safe. You see, this was an anti-terrorist case, and he wanted to prove a grenade was easy to use. He was sure all the weapons were no longer active, but a few seconds later, the detonator exploded in his hand. It injured the officer and sent shrapnel flying into an assistant's head. The blast even knocked the judge off his chair. remaining weapons he brought had to be tested to prevent another accident. He pulled. The robot bunnies were placed deep into the swamp. They were covered in fur, heated from the inside, and programmed to twitch like prey. You see, giant pythons were eating too many animals. Rabbits, raccoons, and even bobcats were disappearing, but the snakes were nearly to find, so they placed the robot bunnies in the swamp to lure the snakes out of hiding. Cameras caught the moment they slithered close, alerting the hunters so they could trap the snakes and remove them. Trap the snakes. The robot bunnies were placed deep into the swamp. He noticed his nipple leaking out of nowhere, so he went to get an X-ray, which revealed a knife in his chest that he didn't know about. You see, years earlier, he was stabbed in the back. If Mount Rushmore was carved to show their whole bodies, they would need to be tightly packed with how squished their faces are. And because it's built near the ground, they would be kneeling on their hands and knees, with their arms sort of tangled together. And if you looked from the other side, you would only see their butts. You see, the sculptor had actually planned to carve, perhaps, to look like they were standing with their legs underground and their waists just above the surface. But the start of World War II was draining the government's money, and on top of that, the original sculptor died, meaning Mount Rushmore was never completed. If Mount Rushmore The ship struck a rock just off the coast and began to tip. Water flooded the lower decks and killed the power, but the captain claimed it wasn't serious, waiting over an hour to start evacuation. As panic spread, he climbed into a lifeboat and left the sinking ship. Meanwhile, waiters and crew members helped passengers escape. They stayed behind and saved lives, but 32 people died in the chaos, all while the captain was sailing away. He was later sentenced to 16 years in prison for his actions. The ship struck a rock just off the coast. He shot at the car as they turned the corner, aiming at the Archduke and Duchess of Austria-Hungary. But he wasn't the first assassin to try. Earlier, 2 assassins chickened out, and when a third assassin threw a bomb at them, it bounced off, exploding under a car nearby. But later, the driver accidentally turned onto the wrong street, and another assassin was waiting there. He quickly fired his gun, killing the Duke and his wife. He placed an ad for cleaners, instructing them to wear jeans, a blue shirt, and a yellow safety vest, and to meet him at the bank. Then, when they were all there, he pepper sprayed the guard, grabbing 2 bags of money, and vanished into the crowd dressed exactly like him. When police arrived, they found the parking lot filled with identical workers, all matching the thief's description, and the robber had gotten away. But weeks before, a homeless man saw him practicing the robbery. He noted his license plate and told the police, who traced it and arrested him immediately. He placed an ad He noted for cleaners, instructing them to wear. 2 puppeteers sat inside the torso, each controlling an arm, and with their free hands, they moved his head and tongue. Inside, a tiny monitor showed them the other actors, allowing them to interact. A third man inside the tail made it wiggle, and another would lay beneath them, using a set of bellows to make Jabba's chest rise and fall. They also pulled strings to move the mouth. Finally, a radio operator controlled Jabba's eyes, adjusting pupil dilation, direction, and blinking. And between takes, a crew constantly rubbed gel across Jabba's body to keep him looking slimy and gross. 2 puppeteers sat in.
Better skin or
The tiny backpack is glued onto the roach's back, containing a battery, radio, and microphone. Then wires are attached to the antenna, and it's released into the disaster site. By zapping the left antenna, scientists can make it turn right, and vice versa. As it walks around, the phone listens to any cries for help, while the radio sends scientists its location. They can even use teams of cockroaches to find victims. Now, scientists are still testing these parts, but someday you might just be saved by a cockroach. The tiny backpack is. He pulled the dying crocodile from the riverbank and took it home to treat its injuries. For 6 months, he kept it in a secret pond behind his house, where he would feed it 9 pounds of meat a day. He even slept beside it, thinking his love would heal its wounds. And when he tried to release it back to the wild, the crocodile refused to leave and ended up staying with the man for over 20 years. Now, during this time, they performed shows for tourists, and when it finally died, the man held a public funeral where he sang a song for his crocodile friend. He pulled the dying crocodile from the river. The tape would record the screeching noise broadcast over the radio, and this wrote a code onto the tape. When it was loaded into a computer, it would translate the sound into commands, which turned into a video game that you could actually play. Entire radio shows were dedicated to broadcasting these games, and by recording them, you could play them for free. But eventually, the code got too complex, and the cassettes were replaced by floppy disks. The tape would record the screeching noise broadcast. She watched her daughter fail the cheerleading tryouts as the coaches picked another girl, and she realized if she just killed the girl's mom, the girl would be too sad to cheerlead, letting the daughter take her place. So the woman asked a family member to hire a hitman to do the job, but he secretly recorded her plan and went to the police, who immediately arrested her.
Austin 316.
He stacked his caps on his head and tried to sell them according to the story. When he got tired, he fell asleep beneath a tree. But while he slept, a group of monkeys snatched every cap but one. When he woke up, he saw them in the branches, each one wearing a stolen cap. He shook his fingers at them, and they did the same. He stomped and yelled for them to return the hats, but they only copied him. When he realized what they were doing, he threw his cap to the ground, and one by one, the monkeys did too. He smiled, gathered his caps, and walked on, showing that keeping a cool head is the best way to solve a problem. He stacked his caps on his head and If you eat an unpopped kernel, the sudden force could split your tooth right down the middle. A dentist would have to drill the jagged edges to smooth